There have been 67 winning streaks of 3 games or more across baseball this season by 27 different teams. The Braves are still waiting on their first, but they're also one of 3 teams to not lose 3 games in a row at any point so far this season. So they've got that going for them, which is nice. Cory McCartney and Grant McAuley in for another episode of Battery Power TV. And Grant, the search for that first streak continues, but the offense did show some encouraging signs against the Phillies, and it boils down to this. Dansby Swanson is hot. Yep. William Contreras is somehow hotter. In the middle of the order, namely Marcell Ozuna and Austin Riley, are finally seeming to trend in the right direction.
Yeah, those are some things the Braves have been looking for all year long, is to get a few guys hot at the same time. It seems like it's 1 or 2, then there's 3 or 4 that aren't, and then what order do you put this lineup in? I mean, as I've said in so many different things, we say it here on Battery Power, I've said it on From the Diamond, which will be on every Sunday, and it just continues to be the case where Brian Snitker has all the right names to put in this lineup, but for whatever reason, it's maybe the order, it's just the way things are trending for some of these guys individually. The performance has to tick up to what we would imagine would be reasonable expectations. Prior performance being an indicator of perhaps future results for this lineup. We'll see how that whole thing plays out, but they've got to get some more consistency. But it is great to see Dansby Swanson well out of that frigid start to the season and on the right track for the Braves. He's been their most valuable player so far this year, in my opinion.
All right, so let's roll into Dansby then. Hitting 143 with a 432 OPS on April 20th. Since then, he's hitting 324, a 930 OPS, 6 homers, 4 doubles, a triple. He is hotter than Hansel right now, the 15th best weighted on base average overall in that span, the 6th best in the NL. If you narrow that down to shortstops, nobody in the NL has been better in weighted on base average or weighted run created plus at 158. If there's one thing, though, Grant, that has defined Dansby's play, it's streakiness. Last season, you look at that weighted on base average, it jumped nearly 100 points from the season's first month to the second, then went down nearly 140 points from August to September. And he's added again. The current weighted on base average is 100 points higher than it was in the first month of the season. Consistency has always been that missing ingredient with him. He's still searching for that first 162 game season in which he hits above league average. Are we, in your mind, in the midst of another Swanson streak, or do we really believe this kind of elite level performance that we're getting out of him might be a little bit more sustainable?
I mean, I'd hope it's somewhat sustainable. I'm not saying he's going to hit 330 for the rest of the season, or that he's going to OPS 900 plus and, do all the things that he's been doing. I think he's on at this point 100 RBI pace over the last 30 games, 100 runs scored pace over the last 30 games, and quite a little streak of home runs as well. If you want to do the math on that, he's got 6 homers. He's driven in 21 runs. He's scored 20 runs, and all of that after the, he couldn't hardly buy an extra base hit, let alone a home run, and was striking out basically 50% of the time over the first 2.5, 3 weeks of the season. Now, the strikeouts have still been there, but the hard contact has come into play. The adjustments he's made at the plate have, obviously lended themselves to good results for the Braves shortstop. And then, as you talked about, all the different indicators that say that he's on one of these hot streaks. Is it going to last? I don't know. I mean, I'm not expecting it to be exactly what it's been for the past month, but do I think that he can do something that is, certainly useful to this lineup and make regular contributions? I absolutely do. And I'm hoping that he's able to find at least a consistent thread to pull through this entire season where there aren't as many peaks and valleys. I mean, the peaks are nice, but the valleys, and he started off on one of those and had to find his way out at the start of the season, those have been lengthy as well, to your point. And then you throw in the elite level defense he's playing. I think he's been one of, if not the best, all-around defenders at any position in all of Major League Baseball, certainly the National League, and certainly shortstops. These are the things to be encouraged about, and these are the reasons why that he's leading the Braves and wins above replacement. And I don't think after the first couple of weeks, you could have polled any Braves fans that would say, you know what? About the time we get to June, Dansby is going to be the guy leading the club in WAR. I don't think that would have been the case.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to say that all of a sudden we're going to be talking about him in the class of Carlos Correa and, Fernando Tatis Jr. and all that. And I think, honestly, at this point, the timing makes it hard to gauge all those key numbers on StatCast. When you start looking at exit velocity, barrel rate, hard hit rate, the expected stats, they're all up year over year, but it's easy to be up year over year when we're talking about things that not having been even into June at this point. But I think, when you also talk about, him hitting above league average last year in the second half,
Mhm.
going on to have a strong World Series. There's indicators that, maybe he's trending a little bit towards the high level of what we've seen from those streaks being a little bit more sustainable. But I will tell you, you mentioned the defense, that Gold Glove caliber defense. The timing for it all couldn't be better because, of course, he's going into a contract year. Being able to maintain something closer to this is going to be very, very big for Dansby Swanson over the next 6 months plus. Speaking of red hot bats, there are not many on the level of one William Contreras right now. It's been just 55 plate appearances, but he's gone deep 7 times, has a 204 weighted run created plus. That is 4th best in the majors with a minimum of 50 plate appearances. I couch that again, a minimum of 50 plate appearances.
Right.
That's behind only the Angels, Taylor Ward, Mike Trout, and of course the Yankees, Aaron Judge. He's 17% better than the 2nd best player in the National League in Manny Machado. If you want a little bit of Braves history, he's one of 4 players ever to hit 7 homers in his first 13 games of the season. Justin Upton, Dale Murphy, and Ronald Acuna Jr. in that class. Consistency was going to be the opportunity for him to get at ABs, and we wondered how it was going to happen. Brian Snitker said, if, one day, all right, we're not going to get this guy really time outside a catcher. 48 hours later, he's in left field, then he's in DH, then he's a catcher again. We've seen consistent ABs. He's responded with this stretch, 5 hits in his last 14 ABs. Grant, I'll tell you, I when we go back to that Matt Olson deal, I had my questions as to whether the Braves held on to the wrong catcher. I think there's going to be some parallels between William Contreras and Shea Langoliers for a long time, especially in Braves circles. But it's hard to argue that right now, William Contreras is not taking full advantage of every opportunity that he's getting.
No, he certainly is. I mean, and you talked about the hitters in which, and again, 50 plate appearances. I know you did couch that more than once, but if we're building the Mount Rushmore of 2022 Major League Baseball offensive stars, and you said, okay, well, Mike Trout's going to be up there. We're going to put Aaron Judge up there. Then I want to tell you about Taylor Ward and William Contreras. I mean, I know it's a smaller sample size that we are talking about, but again, as you mentioned with the home run history, the frequency of the home runs in a very short amount of games and very small amount of plate appearances, he has given the Braves some significant thump in really, I think, more than could have possibly been asked for. The Braves were looking to have a healthy Travis d'Arnaud. They were looking to have Manny Pena be the backup. And then where William Contreras fell in all this, maybe he would start, grabbing a first baseman's glove. Maybe he would play in the outfield some. I don't know. Maybe they would try him at third base to give Austin Riley a day here or there, or just to have a super utility type, just so that you had one more excuse to get his bat in the lineup somewhere. But all of that changed with an injury. And that's happened to so many clubs and so many players throughout their career. The loss of Manny Pena meant that, hey, the Braves are going to have to dip into their catching depth, which they hope is better than it was in 2021. And they're going to have to hope that William Contreras took all that experience from 2021, from that kind of open tryout that he had for quite a while, and learned from that and built on that. And I believe that he's done that. I think he's done a nice job handling the staff. I think that he's certainly done a nice job handling the sticks. So those are the things that have you really encouraged that the Braves do, in fact, have a guy that can be a player behind the plate or wherever else he ends up playing. But when you had to choose between Shea Langoliers and William Contreras, the defense first or the defense heavy Langoliers, particularly with that throwing arm, is an exciting prospect to have. He's a former first round draft pick not too long ago for the club. There were a lot of different things that made you realize the Braves are giving up on a pretty good prospect here in exchange to get their first baseman of the future. And that's what they have in Matt Olson, the present and the future, because they locked him down to that long-term contract. All of this to say, William Contreras took a rather unorthodox route to becoming one of the Braves' best sluggers in 2022. But I think Brian Snitker and everybody that has tuned in to hope that the Braves are going to be able to find something special and go on a run this year are thankful that William Contreras has been part of this picture, because there have been way more questions than answers in the Braves lineup this year. So
you brought up the defense, and I think that the offense has been so unexpected for a guy that has 1 year in his entire pro ball career of double-digit home runs. But the defense has been vastly improved, as you mentioned.
Yep.
He was in the negative in defensive runs saved a year ago. That's no longer the case. The framing stats are up as well.
Yep.
Certainly, again, he's taken full advantage of every opportunity. Swanson and Contreras both doing that to be have been huge for an offense that has shown a little bit more firepower. They've ranked in the top 10 in runs scored over the last week. Obviously, they're without Ronald Acuna Jr. again, who's missing his 3rd straight game on Friday. Yep. But Marcell Ozuna is riding a 12-game hitting streak. Austin Riley has had 3 multi-hit games over the last week. Matt Olson has 4 extra base hits in the last week. However, when Kyle Wright is on the mound, Grant, it's siesta time for this offense. He was strong again on Thursday against the Phillies. and is in the top 20 among all starters in Fangraph WAR ERA. But that run support just continues to be a major problem amid this breakout. The Braves are scoring 1.8 runs per game in his 9 starts compared to getting 5.1 per game for Charlie Morton, 4.8 for Ian Anderson, 4.1 for Max Fried. The league average, by the way, is 4.5. I remember a running joke during Shelby Miller's All-Star season in 2015 when he had the worst run support in the league. Wright has never had more than 3 runs per game of support of any of these starts. And Grant, he's delivered 6 quality outings, which is tied for the team high. This is, I mean, it's getting a little bit ridiculous.
I mean, it's unfortunate, I'll say that. And the big thing is, and I feel like on a night in which Kyle Wright goes out and gives you the kind of start that he did, and he ran into trouble in that 7th inning where I feel like in some respects, maybe it was an opportunity to give him one more hitter, but I also understood why after walking a batter on 4 straight and hitting the next batter, that even with 2 outs in that 7th inning, maybe you bring in that lefty, you do that lefty-lefty matchup, and you find a way to escape that. It didn't work out for the Braves last night, but the thing that really didn't work out is what you're talking about. It didn't matter that those inherited runners scored at the end of the night as much as you might think, because the Braves only scored their 1 run. They didn't get that until it was a wild pitch in the 9th inning with 2 outs that allowed them to even have a run to score. And I don't think the game would have played out that way. So unfortunately, Kyle Wright, as good as he was on that night, Aaron Nola was better. But it does go back and point to the fact that the Braves offense simply has not delivered by and large to the level that I think they were hoping to, and particularly on the nights that Kyle Wright is pitching. But I give a lot of credit to Aaron Nola in a game like Thursday to go out and throw the game that he did. As much as you can say, well, the Braves offense really didn't have an answer for him. Nola is one of those guys that I feel like can give you that kind of performance. And it feels like, and I'd have to really go back and look at it, I'm just kind of freestyling here. It seems like Kyle Wright's gotten a couple of tougher pitching matchups as well in his half a dozen or 7 starts at this point that has been, maybe a reason why he did not fare as well with the run support. That is always a factor. Somebody on the other side is trying to keep the Braves offense from scoring. And unfortunately, they've been doing a better job this year than they've done in years past.
Yeah, I don't think it's because they don't like Kyle Wright that they're not getting any run support, but how much backing he gets will not be a topic in the next series as the Braves again face the Marlins. And if it feels like we just talked about the Braves facing the Marlins, it's because we did, because they just spent last weekend in Miami. Lines up with the same pitchers coming out for the Marlins in this moment: Trevor Rogers, Sandy Alcantara, and Eliza Hernandez. The Braves going with Ian Anderson, Tucker Davidson, and Max Fried. This Tucker Davidson start, though, it feels big. I mean, he was roughed up by the Phillies last time, lasted 2 2/3, 5 earned runs. The 5th spot in this rotation continues to be a major issue. If you take out the one opener start that they have from Jesse Chavez, they have an almost 9 ERA from the guys that have tried to fill this role. There's a growing call for Spencer Strider, who had all but one of his 22 minor league appearances last year in the starting role. He's worked multiple innings in 7 of his appearances for the Braves so far. To get that opportunity. That may still happen, especially once the bullpen becomes a little bit healthier when you think about Tyler Matzik when he comes back for the injured list. But Grant, you kind of have to feel like right now that timetable could be moved up if Tucker Davidson struggles again.
Yeah, somebody just has to simply step up and give the Braves some consistency. And I'm talking about, 5 innings of 2-run ball, 6 innings of 3-run ball, the old quality start that everybody loves. But hey, when you're not getting anything close to that, you'll start there and move forward and perhaps make progress in building on that. And Tucker, I thought he looked really good against the Milwaukee Brewers in that first start back. And I felt like he got himself in trouble more so with the Phillies because it felt like that old pitcher saying of trying to be too fine. I felt like he was going after the corners a lot. The Phillies were quite simply just letting him miss there. And then he kind of got himself in trouble with a bunch of base runners. And I think with the walks that we've talked about with some Braves pitchers and with Braves pitchers in general this year, it opens the door for the big inning. And the Phillies in that particular game, a couple of times were like, don't mind if we do, if you're going to put them out here, because that's a team that knows how to swing the bat. And I think for Tucker, one of the other things, and it's easy for us to say sitting here, but knowing that you belong in the big leagues, I feel like there's a moment in every young pitcher, young player's career where they start to, kind of mentally get that down and realize, what, I belong up here. My stuff plays up here. I'm going to trust my stuff and I'm going to do the things I need to do to be successful as the pitcher that I am. Kyle Wright has done the best job of that of any Braves pitcher I can think of in the recent past. I think Max Fried had to do that a little bit because remember when he made the opening day roster in 2019, Max Fried was in the bullpen, but it was necessity that brought him into the starting rotation. He won 17 games. That helped him stay there, and he only got better after that. Now, am I saying Tucker Davidson's going to follow the Max Fried path and become the staff ace? It would be great, but I think just going out there, maybe slowing the game down a little bit, maybe simplifying a bit would be helpful for him. But I can totally understand on the big stage where the lights are brightest and where they just keep stacking the decks of fans up, and it plays different, it feels different, it looks different, and the hitters are most certainly a different animal. But I feel like Tucker has the stuff, he's got the weapons. It's just figuring out how to execute a game plan that allows him to get ahead, stay ahead, and put hitters away. I think he can do that, but I've felt that this is, the problem area for the Braves is that they have a few prospects that I think would fall under the realm of, hey, they've got the stuff, they've got the tools. Is it a finishing school that they're going through in Gwinnett to try to get him ready for here? Is there something else in development that just takes a little longer to click? I know it takes time, and I'm a patient person, but I think the Braves, with this fifth spot in the rotation, they want to get it figured out. They'd love to welcome Mike Soroka back into that, and it could happen at some point in the next couple of months, but we're not there yet. So somebody's going to have to step up and give, again, the consistency that the Braves need every fifth day in that spot.
Yeah, the Braves would love for that turn in the confidence to begin as early as this weekend against the Marlins. They're still on that run of 9 straight series against teams that, we went into it, we're all below 500. Guess what? The Diamondbacks are now at 500, and they've got that great pitching staff that the Braves are going to have to take on with an upcoming trip to Arizona as well. We'll have you covered for all of it, though, here on Battery Power TV. So subscribe, turn on notifications, get an alert for each new episode. And as Grant mentioned earlier, you can catch us on 92.9 The Game from 5 to 7 p.m. on Sundays on From the Diamond. So until next time, he's Grant McAuley. I'm Cory McCartney, and we'll see you soon, Braves country.